Hey, welcome to Mended Futures, where real stories remind us that broken doesn't mean the end. It's just the beginning of something new.
I'm Evan Bergener.
And I'm Liz Mahan. We're the new Season 2 hosts, and together our goal is to share powerful, true stories of resilience, redemption, and hope.
Each week, we'll walk with people through the valleys and celebrate the moments when light breaks through.
Because every future can be mended, one story at a time.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Mended Futures Podcast. I'm here with Liz. Liz, tell us who is our guest today.
Hi, everyone. It is so good to be back. Oh my goodness, I am so excited for today. Today we have Amy Keenan-Amago with us, who does incredible work in the nonprofit space. So I'm excited for us to kind of chat with her, learn more about the work that she does and her why behind it, and just the impact that she makes in her community. So Amy, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're excited to have you.
Thank you, Liz and Evan. I am equally excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, I would love if we could start off, if you could tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am a middle-aged white woman who has a husband and 2 boys, 2 teens. I live in Charlottesville. My background is in psychology and studio art. That was my what I studied in undergrad. I double majored. And as I went through sort of figuring out my career path and what sort of made my heart sing, as my parents always would say, find what makes your heart sing, which is cheesy, but it's been a nice little North Star as you're looking to find a meaningful way to contribute. I got more and more interested in sort of the intersection of psychology and art, which led me to art education. I taught art for many years in public schools, private schools, museums, art centers. Out of my home studio, any way you could teach art, I taught art. So I have a very solid and sort of long background in art education. Got my master's in the early aughts, and then knew that I wanted to eventually get a PhD. I was also an art maker from a young age. So, along as I was teaching art, I was also making art and showing art while raising 2 kids and, bopping in and out of full and part-time teaching positions. And I always knew I wanted to get a doctorate so that I could eventually teach teachers and prepare art educators for the future. And so in 2018, I entered VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University's doctoral program in art education. And as I mentioned, when we were just chatting before we went live or we started recording, that is, I'm in the last stages of that. I'm writing a dissertation, and ultimately my experiences at VCU kind of led me to the work that I do now. So I still make art when I can, but that's a little hard. Time is a little hard to come by in that regard, but just because I'm, working full time and writing the dissertation. But I consider myself an art maker, a researcher, an educator, and a facilitator of other people's art making, which is a complete joy and privilege.
I love that. It's like a little bit of everything, honestly.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, you sound really busy. You got a lot of things going on. Just before we went live, Amy was telling us that she took the day off today, and she's spending part of that time doing some data analysis for her dissertation. So that tells you there's a lot of work and stuff she's been doing as of late. But tell us about that work. What do you do at the ARC studio, and who does the ARC serve?
Yeah. So the ARC studio was founded 4.5 years ago. I founded it 4.5 years ago. And it's a part of a larger nonprofit organization called the ARC of the Piedmont. The ARC the ARC is a national sort of organization, nonprofit organization that supports and advocates for adults with developmental disabilities. And developmental disabilities, in case people or listeners don't know what that means, it's people with Down syndrome, autism, chromosomal conditions that typically, or could even be traumatic brain injuries. But, developmental disability is considered, it was something that was diagnosed before the age of 18. So something that somebody was, born with or had from a really early age. So the ARC serves individuals with developmental disabilities all around the country. There are over 200 ARC chapters. I think that number is right. And in the state of Virginia, there are 22 ARC chapters. So
Mhm.
the ARC of the Piedmont serves 6 counties in central Virginia. I came to the ARC. The joke at work is I walked in off the street and here I am
I love
four and
it.
a half years later directing this big studio. I came to the ARC because through my experiences teaching pre-service art educators at VCU, one of the classes I was teaching was called Art for the Exceptional Learner, which is a course designed for pre-service art educators to help prepare them to teach. The human spectrum is wide in terms of abilities and backgrounds
Mhm.
and able-bodied versus disabled-bodied and neurodivergence and all of these things. It's a very wide, infinite spectrum of human expression. And when you're teaching art to people who fall sort of at the outer ends of that wide spectrum, you have to be prepared in certain ways, have background knowledge and experience and sensitivities. And so I was teaching that course. In teaching that course, one of the things we did was invite adults from the Henrico Day program, which is a day program, much like the ARC has, that supports adults with developmental disabilities. We invited these adults to the VCU studios to make art with us. And we had
Mhm.
all sorts of materials all over the tables. And we just invited these adults to come and create alongside our students. And it was all open-ended. But after the first we had 2 sessions within the same week with the same artists, the same people from Henrico. And I was so impressed and amazed by the work that was produced. Not that I had any, preconceived idea that it wouldn't be good. I think what was particularly remarkable was how rich and beautiful it was, knowing, as I found out later, that these were individuals who didn't have a lot of access to art making or background
Mhm.
experience in art making. And when I was talking to the staff members who accompanied the individuals from the Henrico Day program, I was like, wow, his watercolors, her pastels, they're so incredible. Do you make a lot of this artwork back at your day program? And they were like, oh, no, we don't have any of these materials. We don't do anything like this. And I was really surprised because that meant that, first of all, these individuals were capable of such deep and complex and beautiful and exciting forms of expression and, visual art making without apparently having a lot of access to that development of those
Mhm.
skills. And whoa, why didn't they have access? Right. Like I was like, this is too bad because look what they are capable of creating and why don't they have these tools at their disposal? So then when I was looking for places to do my doctoral externship, I was living in Charlottesville and commuting to Richmond. I knew I wanted to do something in my community. I went to the ARC and said, hey, do you have an authentic visual arts program? They said no. I said, would you like one for free? It's my externship. They said, sure. So this was just before the pandemic. We had to wait a year. Then after when things were safe to start opening up again, they let me develop a program and they had this little room that wasn't really being used for much. I turned it into a studio. Really quickly, we saw the impact of the program. We were filled to capacity every day. We recognized that this needed to expand, and it kind of took off from there. But the ARC of the Piedmont at large, serves people with developmental disabilities through a number of different avenues. They have residential support services, group homes, day programs. Like I said, it's a big organization serving 6 different counties in Central Virginia, and the services they provide really run the gamut. But the overarching mission of the ARC is to provide a life like anyone else's for people with developmental disabilities. And so I think now that the studio's been up and running for a while, the ARC at large, and now other chapters too, because I've presented at conferences, are starting to realize that a life like yours includes creative, avenues for creative expression.
Yes, yeah. I love that so much. That is so, so beautiful. And it is such a need. And I love that other arcs are kind of opening their eyes too and seeing the need for that and the impact that you're having, not only in your community, but you're spreading that throughout a national organization. That's really, really beautiful. I'd love to know what how has this impacted you personally, and what kind of ways have you seen this studio impacting those who come in and create art in that space?
Yeah, well, it's impacted me, tremendously at every level. I think from an emotional level, a spiritual level, an intellectual level. Obviously, it's impacting the way that I think about the function of art making for human beings and the essential basic. I believe that art making is a universal human impulse, and that's based on what I've seen through my experiences making and teaching art for, I'm 50, almost 52 years old, but also through reading and research and getting, knowing other artists. But there's a cultural anthropologist named Ellen Dissanayake who has studied the presence of creative making and art in cultures and groups of people throughout time, and across place and time and culture. It's present. This human capacity for an impulse to create is something that essentially makes us human.
Yeah.
And to my mind, if it is a universal human impulse, then access to it should be a universal human right.
Yes.
And so when I observe the function of art making for any art maker, but certainly for people who are often marginalized from full and complete access to authentic aspects of art making or creativity or participation in cultures of creativity, I see the impact that it has on at least the individuals that I get to work with every day. And it opens up new avenues of expression and communication and empowerment and development of self and pride and and even career options, selling art, showing art, connecting with collectors. So that's incredibly impactful for me because as much as I've been steeped in the art world, my understanding of the role and necessity of art making just continues to be expanded. And I get the privilege. I have the privilege of helping other people expand their notions of the creative and intellectual capacities of people with developmental disabilities and help sort of nudge the public's view of who gets to be an artist and who gets to participate in the creative culture. I get to nudge that further and invite people to reconsider who an artist is and what it means to participate in an artistic community. So, and also just sitting side by side with somebody as they find new avenues for expression and communication and telling their stories and sharing their perspectives. That's kind of a sacred moment to see people share who they are in a way that makes them proud or excited or happy. And many of our artists don't communicate through spoken word or written word. They communicate through other means, and they're certainly expressive people who have a lot to say, but art making becomes another avenue for that communication and expression of and telling of their stories. So that is a sacred moment for me, and it's really beautiful. And also just sitting with other and being with other people as they make art. Any artist, it impacts your own art making. I see new ways of, new visual languages, new ways of experimenting with materials, of using our bodies and our minds and our senses of humor to communicate. And that, of course, that's going to impact you. Anyone out there making art knows that when you encounter other artists, it's inspiring, it's challenging, it makes you think about your own processes of creation. And so it's a real gift to be in the presence of all these art makers. So it certainly inspires me as an art maker. It inspires me because it's sacred space. It inspires me intellectually because I'm challenging these preconceived ideas of what culture says, who gets to be an artist, who gets to participate, what art is, how it functions. So really, it makes me fire on all cylinders, which is why it's a complete joy to do this work.
Yeah. You were saying that your parents said, like, find what makes your heart sing. And I can tell this is what makes your heart sing. It's just, it's coming through in the way you're talking about it. And I love listening to you talking about the word sacred, like those sacred moments where the people that you serve, they may have never gotten to express themselves like they are before they've encountered you in your work that you do at the Arc of the Piedmont. So that kind of makes me want to ask you, are there any stories off the top of your head where maybe you were in a moment like that or something else? Just a story of off the top of your head about the impact that the Arc has had. Are there any that come to mind?
Oh, I mean, yeah, so many. I would love to tell a story about Julia, who's one of our artists. Julia is, let's see, I think she's 57. I think that's about the right age. And when she has, if she were here, she'd be like, "Oh, honey, let me take over. I'll tell my story." And I wish she could be the person speaking, but I'll try to do her justice. She is just effervescent. She is hilarious. She is full of love and joy and storytelling. So I get to know her really well because she is somebody who loves to share her story and tell us about her past. So I also think this is a great example because it offers a little historical perspective. So Julia is one of our artists. When she was born, the doctors told her parents she would never be able to talk. And the joke she tells is that her father said to the doctors, "Well, you don't know her mother."
I love it.
Because I think her mother was loved to talk. And Julia has told this story to the public. So what's funny is that she has gone on to be one of our keynote speakers at the Arcs Gala. Julia has gone on to, she spoke to the Volunteer Guild at the Fralin Museum of Art. So she's given artist talks at local galleries. So this person who was, whose family was told, oh, she would never be able to talk, has gone on to exceed every expectation that was, set for her when she was born. And a lot of this has, demonstrates, I think, one, just an overarching cultural, maybe misconception of what people with developmental disabilities are capable of. Certainly, they're, back in whenever she, I guess, late 60s or whenever she was born, there were different ways of conceptualizing. There were different models. The medical model, which is a problematic model for understanding developmental disabilities, is a more limiting model of understanding what people with developmental disabilities are capable of. The story speaks to sort of cultural shifts, perspective shifts with regard to people with developmental disabilities. But her story is also really unique because she wants to tell that. She wants to share, oh yeah, the doctor said I wouldn't talk and look at me now. And because when she came to the studio, when we opened in June of 2021, her family, she has two lovely sisters who are super involved in her life and in the Arc's life and in supporting the studio and supporting the Arc of the Piedmont. And they said they didn't know she was a visual artist. And here, so here she was in her, at the time, I guess it would have been her early 50s, all of a sudden, like bursting onto the scene as this visual art maker, having art shows, selling work, being invited to give artist talks, talking about her artistic process and the ideas behind what she was making. And her sisters were like, we knew Julia was capable of so much. We never knew she was a visual artist till the studio opened and she started making art there. And she's in the studio almost every day that we're open, which is, 5 days a week. So her story is just so unique and beautiful. And it demonstrates, I think, if Julia had never been given access to the studio space, no one would know what she was capable of doing as an artist, that there was an artist waiting inside of her, right, to communicate and share all of these amazing things that she communicates. And it's also really special for demonstrating sort of the historical shifts with regard to developmental disabilities and just how prevalent these sort of limiting perspectives on the capacities of people with developmental disabilities, how harmful that can be, and what a disservice it is to these human beings who have so many amazing things to share with us and to contribute to well, every world, but certainly the art world.
Absolutely. I love that so much. And that's just, I'm sure that's one of many, many stories that you could tell and just the impact. You can hear numbers and you can hear how busy like the studio might be or things like that. But when you break it down and you're hearing just individual stories, how beautiful that truly is of lives being impacted just by being empowered and being believed in and being celebrated. So I love that that's work that you stand for so much. I love,
Can I add one thing too?
yeah, yeah, go for it.
Please.
I think because this podcast touches on so much of spirituality and faith
Yeah.
and sacred spaces, one of the things that's really special also about Julia's art making process is that she expresses that it for her the process of art making makes her feel closer to God. and
Mhm.
and certainly this isn't the case for every artist who comes into our studio or every artist who creates, but she talks about how it she knows God's watching her when she's making and smiling down on her and
Mm.
saying things. She says, oh, I know God thinks he broke the mold when he made me. But she also she talks about how making art helps her process her feelings, and it comes out, her frustrations come out of her fingertips and they go into the canvas, and how she knows that like some like parts of God are coming through her and going into the canvas. So, in many ways, the art making process for her, because she has a spiritual life, enhances that and gives her almost a conduit for connecting with something that's incredibly meaningful to her, which is her relationship with God. And so I just think that that's worth mentioning
Mhm.
because when we create, it's such a powerful, moving, and personal experience. And I think it's often used to either express what matters to us or help us connect to things that matter to us. And so, again, this is where having access to making art is essential to the human spirit, the human condition,
Mm.
and what it means to sort of connect to things that are bigger than us.
Absolutely. And to kind of build off of that, you know, we were created by a creator, and when we're made in the likeness of God, we have parts of him in us. So when we do create, I totally understand that of feeling connected to God. And I love that she has expressed that and just getting frustration out and things like that, and how you can express emotions just so beautifully that words can lack how to express things sometimes, but art can really be a good conduit for expression and processing and different things like that. So I love that so much. That's awesome. Um, I would love to know too, you were talking a little bit about the community and different partnerships that you have and things like that. What do you think your work has taught you about the importance of community and the importance of unity?
Yeah, this is a great question. When I originally entered into the doctoral program, well, I've loved teaching my entire life. Teaching is such a wonderful career. I think it's essential work. I think it gives us opportunities to connect with folks, um, and to learn. The teacher, also to be a teacher who is a learner. It's just such a wonderful field, and I love teaching. So when I entered the doctoral program, I expected that I would become an academic and go into a university and teach. And I think when I developed the studio and then started building so many connections with the community. I think this sort of community nonprofit work is just an area that I'd never really been that involved in, and I absolutely love it because it is so
Mhm.
dynamic. It is so much about building partnerships. It's about storytelling. It's dynamic and it's synergistic. I mean, you have an idea, someone finds out what you're making. Oh, we want to, hey, you have this great studio. We want to partner. We have missions that overlap. Let's make something happen. It's so fun and dynamic. It suits my personality very well because I'm an extrovert and I like meeting new people. I love talking
Mhm.
about what I do and hearing about what other people do. So it definitely suits me well. But I just think it's such a gift to be able to connect with other community members who are doing so much good in the community and who have all these interesting, exciting projects, and to find ways that we can help lift each other up and help support each other's respective projects. So in terms of community, it's just a complete blast to have something that's in Central Virginia, in Charlottesville, and get to connect with other folks who are also doing good work. And it's just, I feel like we're just always like, we're making another stitch in this like really amazing community weaving that just connects us all. And it's fun. It's a blast. And in terms of unity, I mean, I think that inherent to community projects and partnerships is a give and take. It's holding space for other people. It's not, this is what I'm doing. Inherent in making that connection and partnering means you're giving and you're getting and you're listening and you're um, really learning about what other people want to do in the world, and they're listening to what you're doing. And so you can't enter into community nonprofit work if you're proprietary about what you want to do, if you are inflexible, if you don't communicate well, right? And so in order for it to work, it like, in order to build community, you can't help but learn to be a good listener and to just have fun with others. And it builds unity in that way, because you're saying, here, I'm with you in this, and I'm willing to try new things, and I'm willing to give up things, and I'm willing to hold space and listen. And that's just something we can all benefit from, practicing at all times, especially in today's climate where there isn't a lot of unity.
Right.
And I think that's also one area where, disability touches everybody. We are all at any time in and out of disability. It is not just something that you exist in or you do not exist in. So we either know someone or we ourselves are disabled at any point in our lives, whether it's recovering from a surgery or it's something that's a chronic lifelong condition. And so I think because it touches everybody, it does sort of span different factions, right? It is a unifying the mission for supporting people with developmental disabilities should be a unified mission. It isn't always, and there's a lot of damaging narratives. There are a lot of damaging narratives out in the world, but I think good-hearted people want to help people who need a little bit of support. And so I think that also just, somebody said to me the other day, one of my volunteers, we've got over 20 volunteers who work in the studio. She said to me, "Oh, Amy, you choose such amazing volunteers. Everyone I've met through the studio is so incredible. They're fun and they're nice and they care and they're smart and they're energetic." I'm like, well, I think you're giving me too much credit, Diane. I said, I think it's that anybody who wants to come to a space like ours and give their time, it just selects for a really excellent human being,
Sure.
So, and I know when I meet someone that I'll be like, ooh, I think that's a good candidate for our space. But I just think that, and we have a really wonderful team, our staff and our volunteers and everybody who's a part of the studio. We're really united because we believe in this mission. We have fun together. And we're all sort of open to the learning and the engagement that being in the ARC studio affords us.
Yeah, I mean, I love when you're talking about the importance and the role that the volunteers play, and how there's this web that of the community, people that are coming alongside you, the overlap, and just so that it's for the betterment of the whole community, even if it's not just, oh, hey, we're doing this one thing, we're doing it ourselves. Like, we can't do everything by ourselves. It's coming together and creating those partnerships. So those partnerships, the volunteers, the staff, it's all coming together for that one mission. But I want to know, and maybe the listeners are interested by this point in hearing you talking about the ARC, and they're interested in supporting. How can people support the ARC?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the ARC of the Piedmont is fortunate to have an incredible sort of network of supporters and donors and people who believe in its mission and want to support us. at the same time, there are things happening at the federal level, like cuts to Medicaid,
Mhm.
and which is Medicaid waivers are the primary means by which people receive our services. They're essential to providing a rich, supportive, healthy, and happy life for people with developmental disabilities, and that's all under threat right now. So it's a precarious time. At the federal level, there are also cuts to the arts, which make it difficult to support a nonprofit like ours. Our community is incredible. But yeah, there are lots of ways you can support the Arc of the Piedmont, and the Arc Studio. We have a website where the obvious easy one is like donate. We take donations obviously all the time to support what we do. The Arc of the Piedmont has needs. The studio, I try to make the studio as self-sustaining as possible because again, the fall of 2019 when I proposed this idea in the first place. And then when it opened in 2021, the Arc of the Piedmont's budget was never intended to support a program as robust as ours. So we're always looking for people who can help support that. So that can be everything from donating gently used art supplies or new art supplies, to donating money, to donating your time, to coming to our events, to following us on Instagram, to buying our artists' work. Our artists show and sell their work in the community. We have artwork up right now at the UVA Hospital's main cafeteria. It's all for sale. You can go buy some art, support an artist. Every piece of artwork that we sell, 50% goes directly into the artist account. The other 50% goes to buying more art supplies to support that artist's studio practice. So either directly or indirectly, all sales go back to the artists. A studio requires a lot of consumable art materials. We have staff. And so these sales help us, keep us sustainable. Donations help keep us sustainable. We're grateful to receive meaningful grants from the Joseph and Robert Cornell Memorial Foundation, from the Manning Foundation, but that only goes so far. But there's a donate page on the ARC's website, which is just arcpva.org. And then the ARC Studio has a wonderful, fun Instagram, which is just arc.studio. And it's so much fun because it gives us a wonderful platform for telling our artist stories, for sharing who we are, describing more of the principles and philosophy behind our open studio model of making art. So, and you can also come for a tour. The studio is located on Rose Hill Drive in downtown Charlottesville, kind of up the hill from Mari Bet. If you're, I think bakeries are really wonderful landmarks. So we are right, we're in the Rugby neighborhood right up on Rose Hill Drive. And you can also reach out to me directly through the website, through our Instagram, to set up a tour, to come meet our artists, to come buy art. We have artwork all over the Arc of the Piedmonts. So the building on Rose Hill serves as the Arc of the Piedmonts headquarters, where all the admin offices are, and where our largest day program is. And so we also treat that building as a gallery space. So there's art everywhere. My executive director, incredibly supportive executive director John Santosky, always laughs that, if it were up to him, the walls would still all be white, but now they're filled with artwork. So it's, and I can't say enough good things about how supportive my colleagues at the Arc of the Piedmont are to make this happen. But there are many ways to get involved, to become a member of our artist community and the ARCS community at large. We have an upcoming gala, which is April 18th, which is a super fun event at the Forum, the Kimpton Hotel at UVA at Darden. And that's a wonderful event. And so if you go to the ARCS website, you can buy tickets to that. There are so many events happening. We also have a big show coming up at PVCC. And the opening for that is January 30th from 5 to 7. And we'll be having it'll be a big show featuring all the artists from Central Virginia who have disabilities. It's really, the show is looking at, it's called Community Connections, and it's looking at how art functions for people with disabilities in Central Virginia, curated by the amazing Jess Walters. So there are lots of opportunities. That's a long list, but just to start, follow us on Instagram, come to our website, come for a tour, and I can always tell you more. And we have lots of community-oriented programming too. That's not just for the people at the ARC, but for children in the community with developmental disabilities, for anyone who has a developmental disability, who's an art maker, who wants to belong to an art community. Come find us, because we will make a space for you.
That's awesome. I love that so much. Something that we touch on our podcast pretty often is the impact of just one person. I think it's sometimes easy to kind of count yourself out of what difference can I make just as one person, but it really is so easy to get involved in supporting local nonprofits. I mean, you just listed off a bunch of options and different ways and different strengths or interests that people might have. There's always a space for you and things that you're passionate about. So I love that there's so many facets of how you can get involved supporting y'all and everything. I love it. I'm super inspired by the work that you do, and I will definitely be following y'all on Instagram after this for sure. Yes, of course. So I feel like we're probably wrapping up soon. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we wrapped up at all?
I'm sure I'll think of something after this.
The second we hang up.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's just a complete joy and privilege to do what we do. My team's amazing. And the artists, more than anything, are just so they're bright, they're fun, they're fascinating and wonderful people to spend every day with. It's such a privilege to do this work. And when you come visit, I think you'll see that we have a little nickname for the studio, and it's the Joy Machine, because really our volunteers are always like, this is the best 2 hours of my week. I can't wait to come. So it's really something to behold in person. And I invite anyone who's out there who's curious to just come by and say hi. We have a great Nespresso machine. I can make you a cup of coffee. You can hang out with our artists, make some art, and just learn more about the great work we do.
I love it. I think that there's so much power in following what brings you joy. I think what you said earlier was what makes your heart smile. And that just truly is so beautiful. I mean, you said earlier you didn't really see yourself ever doing this, and it just kind of happened. So it's really cool to see where life ends up leading, and just when you're open to it and you just follow what brings you joy, the impact that your joy can make too. Because in this entire conversation, Evan and I just been smiling the whole time because you just exude so much joy. So this is such a beautiful thing, and thank you so much for the impact that you're making in just in people's lives and the community that you're in. It really is such a beautiful thing to witness and chat with you about.
Oh, thank you. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate the excellent questions you asked, and just the warmth of the dialogue. It's been lovely.
Yes, absolutely.
An absolute pleasure. And guys, go follow the Arc of the Piedmont on all the socials. Go to the shows. It seems like a blast. I know I'm going to be looking at my calendar,
for sure,
seeing if we can make our way up to Charlottesville here soon. But Amy, thank you so much again for your time. It's been a genuine pleasure getting to talk to you and know more about what you do. And I think we're going to wrap things up there.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Amy.
The Mended Futures Podcast is a production of 518 Family Services, formerly Patrick Henry Family Services in Lynchburg, Virginia. Our mission is to build communities of faithful relationships that ensure children are safe and families are restored.
Mended Futures are at the heart of who we are, our stories, our hope, and our vision. They aren't just stories we tell, they're something you can help create. When you give to 518, you're not just making a donation, you're stepping into someone's story. You're helping a family find hope, and you're helping our community heal.
Because of the generosity of people like you, reconciliation is happening in our community each day. Our donors further the mission of seeing every child with a thriving family supported by a faithful community.
We want to see Mended Futures for families in Lynchburg, Virginia, and the 4 surrounding counties. So we invite you to check out our website, 518.org/givemended. That's FIVE18.org/givemended. Join us in the ministry of reconciliation.